Are you feeling and experiencing big changes in your life? If you haven't, you might be. Or perhaps you can feel that energy of something is about to change. Regardless where that's hitting you the time you're watching this video, that's what we're going to talk about. How do we move and shift through change? How do we handle when these unexpected things happen? And really connect to the idea of, were they really unexpected? So make sure you stick around through the whole video. There's a short exercise at the end, a practice that you can use to help ground your energy, kind of reset yourself to help you feel a little bit more stable, centered, balanced, and heartfelt in those moments of big change. I hope you enjoy. Have a great week. Let's talk about this energy of sudden change. You may be experiencing right now some really big things in your life that have just kind of come out of nowhere. It's interesting though. Did they really come out of nowhere? Because oftentimes when we experience these big energies of change, it's because it's actually answering a prayer, a manifestation, a wish or desire, or an intention that we've set out into the universe. And sometimes we stumble across times where the planets align just right, and that sudden change comes in to make room for the very thing that you've asked for. How you connect and relate to change energy says a lot about what you might be feeling right now. Perhaps if you grew up in a place where, like when you were younger, or you have some big time life experiences where sudden changes felt really scary to you, or perhaps they led to these major disruptions in your life where you felt ungrounded, you lost your peace, or even catastrophe feeling, right? Sometimes when we feel the energy of change come in now, we can get kind of triggered and stirred up in those emotions thinking something bad is happening. It was interesting. I had an experience that I feel was really preparing me for the energies of right now. Now, if you're watching this video now, there are a lot of big planetary movements that are indicating and pointing to a big season of change. However, depending on where things line up in your chart and how your spiritual journey is going, there are these moments of time when we experience these changes. It's just the way it's lined up for your personal journey. So last fall, I remember getting this kind of notification of something that I like was being renewed. It was kind of a contract, right? And when I got the contract, it looked a little different, not like it usually had. And my mind immediately went to, oh, what's happening? Is this going to change? Is this only temporary? Is this not for as long as we usually do this agreement? And it got me really stirred up and nervous and a little bit panicked. And then I stopped and I was like, wait a minute. I've actually been praying and manifesting for this particular area of my life to shift into something more aligned with the direction that I want to go. And so when I sat in that energy of like, oh my God, this situation's changing, I heard, of course it is. That's what you've asked for. What was interesting is how I moved through the fall. And eventually when that contract expired, my worst fears did not come true. Nothing had changed. It was just a clerical kind of thing with the dates. It was not a big deal at all. However, it did show me how my initial reaction was fear and kind of a little bit of panic of what am I going to do? I feel like that energy last fall, when that particular thing happened, it was preparing me for some bigger, larger changes that are about to happen in my life. I know I've experienced some kind of surprises this week on things that I actually could feel coming, but they didn't quite come in the way my mind thought they would. This might be happening for you right now. You may have been asking, manifesting, praying, setting intention for things to change in certain areas of your life, and then this moment comes in of disruption, and you're like, well, that's not what I asked for, and it might even be or seem so unrelated to what you've asked for. However, it is connected, because everything on our spiritual journey, everything in nature, everything in life is connected. We are all connected. And this may be happening right now for you to release the outcome and to start to prepare to get comfortable with the changes that you've actually asked for. So, how can you connect and be with yourself and love yourself and support yourself in this area? In the last video, we talked about how the big energies can sometimes point to areas in our life, in our root system below ground, that says, hey, we need a little bit more attention and nurturing here. Maybe you need a little bit more self-care in an area, or awareness, or, some things in your spiritual practice need to change to allow you the time to integrate and embody some of this big energy and these changes that are coming and happening for you. I know this is something that it's brought up a lot of kind of big healing energy for me. And also it showed me, wow, I remember something like this happening last fall. And I've learned a lot in this process, and I don't have to be so afraid. I don't have to live in this fear of change, because change is ultimately what we've been asking for. We see that in the collective, right? There's a lot of big disruption and chaos in our world right now. That's because things are changing. That's because we've, on a collective level, set some intentions for some old things to break away and a new bright beginning to come forth. We as humans, traditionally, it's just in our nature that oftentimes we don't just change on our own. It comes in with a little bit of a pinch point. These pinch points make us uncomfortable to kind of stir us up so that we can have an awareness, like an alarm clock, an awakening to what is it I'm aligning with as this is changing. When my mind comes in and says, these horrible things might happen when I get afraid, when I feel that big emotional energy and planetary energy, when my mind comes in and says, let's be afraid, I can say, let's take a breath. It doesn't always mean something bad's going to happen, because I wasn't asking for something bad to happen. I'm manifesting something really enjoyable, peaceful, something that feels loving and kind to me. And we can connect to the idea that everything is happening for us and not to us, which is really hard when we're human. We can then see that bigger picture, that the universe is actually moving things around for us so that we can have the opportunity to align on a deeper level of what we desire, and that we can move and choose that pathway, that we can choose the pathway of the heart, and believing and feeling in the kindness and the love and the gifts and the abundance and all the wonderful things that we desire. When we connect to that big energy coming in, when maybe you in the tarot they'll call it the tower moment, right? Or when that sudden change comes in, that kind of jolt that we feel in our body. That taking a breath moment that I just kind of spoke about is really important. It's important to kind of stop the thought, because what's happening there is your mind's reaching back for a belief that you formed based on a past experience. And it's screaming to attach to that belief so it can feel safe, so it can feel secure. Because sometimes the mind will reach for even a really horrible outcome based on a belief that we have, because it wants to be right and it wants to say, you know, at least I know what's going to happen. It might be a horrible outcome, but at least I can prepare for the worst. It likes that certainty. Where when we take that breath and we go down deep into the heart, that's when we open up that doorway to spirit, right? That higher vibration, that infinite universe feeling of unlimited possibilities. And in this space of unlimited possibilities lies the, you know, kind of the blooming energy, the spirit of the things that you've been aligning with. Change can feel scary. It can feel uncomfortable. And it may come in with that pinch point to kind of wake us up. But how you view that pinch point determines if it hurts or not. The hurting that you might feel in that pinch point is coming from the story you're telling yourself about what's happening in that moment. Feel that. The hurting and suffering and the turmoil and the fear and the angst is not the energy. You're not afraid of the change. You're afraid because your mind's telling you a story about the change. While your inside, your heart, your soul, your higher self, your inner child is screaming, oh my gosh, it's happening. This is amazing, because it can feel and it can connect to that excitement of something really cool happening. So as these changes start to flow into our lives, as these changes start to unfold in our communities and in the collective, it's important to take that pause and go, wait a minute, what's really happening here? Am I listening to others' fear? Am I listening to my fear? You know, that can happen. Sometimes if we experience something like really big happens, the first thing we want to do is to call a friend or a loved one and tell them all about it. And yes, it's important to connect. However, when you make that phone call or you sit down to have that discussion, what energy are you bringing to that discussion? If you show up in fear and panic, you're alerting fear and panic with them, and then you kind of can get the fear and panic stories going together, because pretty soon you're sharing all of your fear and panic story about what could happen, and they're bringing in all their fear and panic story about what could be happening, and then you're just swimming in it. So yes, it is important to reach out and get support from those you love and your friends. However, the first place to go is that breath of that grounding down and connecting to your soul and going, what's really happening right now? Let's actually try that right now. So this is something that you can do. This is something that I coach in my sessions. This is something that has been really, really helpful for myself. And it is a standard practice that I do pretty much every time that I'm triggered. I want you to remember too, sometimes I can get there in a second. I feel the jolt of change or electricity kind of come in, and I feel the shock of it. And I can sometimes immediately do this practice, and sometimes it might take me a while to get there. And that's okay. Because we have to trust that we're being shown and we're feeling all the things that we need to feel in the moment. And sometimes when we do go up into our heads really quick, we can see the pattern. And that's can help us a lot too. So Go ahead, and anytime that you feel this big thing happen, or let's just say you get that text message, or you see something online, or you get that phone call of that triggers that thing inside of you that causes the uh-oh. Go ahead and take a nice big breath and put your hand on your heart. Sometimes we need to come back into our body, so you can rub your chest. Feel your hand. Feel your hand on your body, maybe move your arms around, touch your face or whatever it is, but bring your hand back down to your heart and take a nice big breath in and out. And ask the question, what am I feeling? And it might take you a few breaths, a few more kind of chest rubbing on your heart, patting even, to connect to how you feel. This is also a space where that mind may want to come in and say, and tell you what's happening. And then you can take a breath and say, what's happening in that thought process is a thought. It's not a feeling. Connect to the feeling. I feel afraid. Okay, good. I feel anxious. I feel upset. I don't feel safe. Whatever it is, that feeling that is that reactionary feeling that pops up to kind of protect you, connect to that feeling. So let's work with, I'm afraid. Okay. What are you afraid of? And then listen. You will hear a part of you answer. For me, my inner child will say, I'm really afraid because the last time I felt this, the last time something like this happened, and it was really awful, and it was scary, and I hated it. And I can say, is that happening right now? This is the part where you might hear a no, but. It's important when, and if you hear that no, but, it could, it might, that we go back to that, is it happening right now? No. Okay, good. And you take that breath and say, in this moment, we're just feeling really big emotions. That's okay. It makes sense that I'm feeling these really big emotions right now. I've had a lot of things in my life that have happened that were scary, and sometimes it didn't feel really good. But it's important to know that those things aren't happening right now. We don't know what's happening right now. We don't know how this turns out. We don't know why in this moment. But it's important just to breathe and ground and allow yourself to feel the feelings that you're experiencing right now, and to bring love and compassion and a witness to those feelings without judgment. If you have any small children in your life, when they have big emotions and feelings, wouldn't it be cool, like, if we just knelt down with them and said, it's okay, you get to feel those feelings. It's okay. Tell me all about it. If it helps, you might imagine some small children that you've had in your life, or that you currently have in your life, to help you connect to that scared inner child inside of you that's having big feelings. Oftentimes when we were young, if you're in my generation or older, or whatever generation, just depending on your experience, when you had really big feelings and got scared, a lot of people tried to jump in and fix things maybe, or maybe they dismissed them. Wouldn't it have been great if someone would have knelt down and just held you and given you the opportunity to catch your breath and connect and hold you and let you know, no matter what happens, no matter what scary things happen right now or ever, I'll be right here with you. That's what we've always really needed, was just to know that we were loved and supported and held in a space that felt scary. You're the one you've been waiting for in that moment. You're the one that gets to come in now and say, hey, I know, scary stories, but I got you. Let's connect. Let me hold you. And depending on your spiritual practice, you might even say, I don't know what's going to happen, but let's call in our angels, our guides, God, the universe, whatever your higher power is for you, your higher self. Call in a loved one that's passed over, anything to say, we have support. We're not alone. And no matter what happens, I'll be here for you. If you would like to experience and sit in a space and help learn how to be there for you, consider booking a session over on my website at jenhuber.com. That's really what the intention of the healing work that we can experience together is creating a space where we can sit and witness and hear, see, and feel the things that you might have never had the opportunity to have witnessed and connected to. We all need connection. We can't heal completely alone on this journey. Your pain, your being requires that space. This is something I know. I actually had a session with someone just the other day because I needed, with all this big change, to just have someone be there with me in that space. And it was amazing after I was finished in my session, how much better I was feeling, how much more grounded, how much more connected to peace I was within myself, because I just needed someone to sit with me. So if you'd like to do that, I'd be honored to share that space with you. So I hope you enjoyed this video as you move through this week. If you haven't experienced big sudden changes, there's a possibility. It's nothing to be afraid of. It's nothing to be frightened about. It's a space where miracles are being created from the intentions that you've set.